It's episode 7 already.
We did it.
We're almost to double digits, just like that. Welcome to the year-end edition of the Markets Podcast. So glad you joined us. If it's a Saturday morning, happy weekend, happy end of the year. We have so much to talk about. We're going to talk about this absolute steam engine of a NASDAQ this year that just, I think,
amazing,
rolled over anyone's expectations and just kept going ever more. I want to start right away, though, because we have a lot to get into here. We're going to talk about NASDAQ. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about chips, obviously. There's so much to talk about in 2023. This, however, is the way we wrap up the week. So a very, very squeaked out, if you will, 0.35% gain for Sean, a 9th straight positive week for stocks right across the board. It was the Dow that actually led this week, but it was the NASDAQ that led overall this year. 54% officially. We're recording this on Friday after the close. If you're watching this on the weekend, again, happy weekend. 54% for the NASDAQ 100 on the year. Its best performance.
Crazy, right?
Since 1999. It's almost New Year's.
It's great. Yeah. Well, the market's closed, so
it's crazy.
Lock it in.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Like, if we had this conversation last year, you know, we didn't even know about the second war, but we had Russia, Ukraine. That didn't seem like that was letting up. We had Bitcoin at 16,000, 17,000 trying to find a base, and people worried about their crypto holdings. Then we had Silicon Valley Bank, the 16th largest bank, this all happened during the year, go underneath and bankrupt, like, see you later. You know, we had inflation 7 to 10% in that range. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh my God, what's going on? We had rates crazy high. We had mortgage rates at 20, 30-year highs. And then you give me that stat? That this market is ripping to the high side right now, and its best market performance since 1999. I don't think we would have guessed that.
No chance. Yeah.
So yeah, we have to be rejoiceful, and we have to celebrate this move. Yeah. But again, we kind of got a huge, and we're going to talk about this in the show, we got that big, sort of that bonus of ChatGPT and AI sparking everything. I like that story. I think we're going to get into it. We also had China worries coming through this year. You know, slowdown in their economy, market all the way to the upside. That's maybe an unloved spot right now, FXI and China. But yeah, great. Absolutely fantastic year considering everything. And it's just like, we have a couple graphics that we're going to show eventually. Yeah. The price targets heading into the new year, there's a lot of differences where we're going to end up at the end of 2024. So I want to go over those as well. But yeah, great year. How did it feel for you?
I mean, and you kind of teed it up there. I mean, it was kind of a two-headed monster in the sense that on one side of things, you had AI, all things AI that led the way. And then on the other side of things, it was all about inflation. It was all about the Fed, and it was all about how are they going to get this inflation back under control. At last check, you know, we got back to that 3 handle on, I mean, it depends on what you want to look at.
PCE
the Fed's preferred inflation reading, PCE, back to that 3 handle. So is it a win? I mean, I think it's a win in the sense that the market thinks it's a win. They're still not back to where they want to be, obviously, but in the end, it was the NASDAQ, it was tech, it was those stocks that got so hit because of inflation that ends up leading things right back to, I mean, let's call it what it is. We're right back to all-time highs.
It's been an amazing. I mean, it's been an amazing run. I have this little, just because you're mentioning it right here, and this is actually from my Twitter. And I got to shout out to Bespoke right now. There was actually 12 stocks that were up more than 100% this year. And the list starts with NVIDIA, 236. But these are all names besides BLDR, your builders group. NVIDIA, Meta 200%, man, 196%. Royal Caribbean, 161%. Uber, 153, right? CCL's there as well. AMD, PanW in the cybersecurity space. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, right? Tesla up 113%, Broadcom and Salesforce. Again, the NASDAQ has really led the way this year, but if you look over here, I also have another graphic right here. This year, We only had 2.4% of the stocks in the S&P 500 that were up over 100%. If you go all the way back to 99, the year that you referenced, you had 7.6% of the S&P 500 over 100%. And then 09, I'm surprised you didn't give me that stat, almost 10% of the names in the S&P 500 were over 100% annual growth. So for everyone that says this year was like an outsized year, look, only 2.4%. Only these 12 stocks over 100%. So yeah, the market was definitely led by some of these bigger names this year.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think, as we were saying, it was AI, it was the NASDAQ, it was tech, it was the. We got to come up with a better term because I can't stand
that stupid Mag 7.
Magnificent, like it's just not working for me. But anyways, we'll think about it. I wanted to show this real quick.
What if we got another one and we just made it the Elite 8? That sound better? Are you a big college basketball
What's
fan?
the next one that's going to be number 8? Let's get into that.
Yeah, I have some ideas.
Just real quick, as far as we were talking about the Fed here, on years, so this is the market performance on when they're in a cutting cycle. So on years where it has been a soft landing, when we're coming off high inflation, there's a cutting cycle from the Fed, a recession occurs. So the recession is the what do you want to call that, teal line?
Yeah, so negative.
The navy line is the average overall. So this is essentially looking into next year. If we get the soft landing that everyone's thinking and everyone is assuming is going to happen.
Is happening.
Is happening. It seems like it anyways. 15-ish, we'll call it, 15.5% has been the norm. During a year where there's a soft landing. Average returns around 5%, which is historic. And recession is not, I actually thought it was going to be a little bit worse than that, -2% on years where there's a recession. So, I mean, it kind of
-2% on years when there's a recession.
I mean, I'll take that every time.
I'll take that every year, all
the
time.
Coming off a year where it's, 54%, like just saying that is insane. 54% for the NASDAQ on a year where, we're coming out of 2022 was an absolute disaster. And everyone was very, very cautious going into 2023 because of that. And all you had to do is just buy the Qs on January 2nd or 3rd or whatever it was and close your eyes.
I mean, I'm a little bit tired too of people saying how easy this year was. You had to go through a lot of stuff,
tough.
man.
No, it was tough.
You had to go through a lot of those things that we had just talked about, a lot of headline risk this year in some of the names. But you know what? We're getting middle age. Is that fair enough to say? I mean, you maybe don't look it, but maybe I do. And the thing is like, if we just kept buying, every single month, it's called dollar cost averaging. You buy names, either names that you like or indexes that you like, and you would have been able to absorb the majority of what happened there in 2022. You would have been buying the dips, you would have been buying the moves also in 2023, and net, you would have been okay. But if you look over here at the SPY, I have a chart up here, we're actually, right now, we talked about it getting to highs, but that goes all the way back to the last time the S&P was at its highs, which was January of 2022. So you kind of like, if you just closed your eyes and woke up now and had that dollar cost averaging, you would actually have been flat from now until then.
That is unbelievable.
But if we just go all the way back down and you just say, hey, what about averaging into this? What about when COVID was around, Like, you want to be able to play dips and rips. So look at the SPY, just over time. All the way back, the Spiders was $150 this time in 12.
Unreal.
So you have 11 years of data, and you're now up about that 400 and so % in 11 years. So it's been a great run for the S&P 500. Have you had to stomach a lot of this? Yes. But at the end of the day, you're at highs right now, and as long as you kind of close your eyes, open them up, you'd be pretty happy where you are right now. But what about the Carvanas of the world? What about Zoom? Affirm. Like Zoom was up to 350, down to 40 again. Affirm, something very, very similar. So for swing trading, it's been great. For dollar cost average traders, it's been great as well. You got to stay away from some of those junky names. We talked about that AMC. I feel like those might be done. How upset are we, Brendan? I mean, maybe you're not super upset.
That AMC's done? Not at all.
No, I just mean about the reverse splits. How many times are we going to see Mullins up 50% again? And then you look at your account, wait a minute, I'm down 98%. How is the stock up 50%? Some of these names, I'm not really happy right now with the restructuring that's been going on with some of these names and some of these shares, but it's created great opportunities for day traders like us. So I'm very, very excited for the new year. I feel like gotten more patient with some of the trades. I think that's going to be a key word moving forward.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about what's to come next year. Obviously, an election year going into 2024 in the US.
You had some interesting stats on that.
Yeah, so there are some things to consider when it comes to an election year in general, but coming off such a huge positive year, specifically for the NASDAQ, going into an election year is also key, as it says on the screen right now. If you're watching video, make sure you take a second, guys, hit the like, and also subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below. Let us know how you did this year. Let us know what you're looking forward to going into 2024 and what you think is going to be the outcome. Is it going to be, once again, all about AI? Is it going to be, once again, all about NVIDIA? Can you imagine if we're sitting here 12 months from today still talking about NVIDIA? I mean, we probably will be, but to the extent...
That I can imagine 100%.
To the extent that...
Someone asked, what's the next NVIDIA?
Yeah.
Maybe it's NVIDIA.
Maybe
Ford PE, we looked at that, was 25.
Yeah, this is what these stocks, I mean, similar to what you just said, this is what these stocks added to the index this year on a percent basis.
So NVIDIA was what? What is that, 15? Where is that?
14, 15%,
Unbelievable.
whatever it is. So as you were saying though, like these 7 stocks made up the entire move. And that's what you got from each. So Microsoft and Apple over here, kind of the same, really, about, you know, the same as far as the return is this year. Amazon and Meta, more or less the same. NVIDIA leads the way. Everything else way down here, basically flat on the day. So, I mean, we'll talk about that.
We know that.
We'll talk about what's coming up or what we expect to come up in 2024. But
you know what a lot of people have been talking about, the equal weighted S&P.
Right.
So you can get that name. RSP is something for that as well. But look, I mean, I have the same kind of thing right here that you were just talking about. S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day average. And right now we are way, like we are at a nice little level here where you get a nice number of stocks that are above their 50-day moving average. The last time we got this high was back in July, where we had a beautiful move back down into the downside there. So I am a little bit worried that potentially we've maybe outsized where we are right now. But it's nice to see that there's some catch up happening. And if you guys wanted to, ketchup or mustard on a hot dog?
I'm a both kind of guy.
Me too, kind of, actually.
Have you ever done the mix?
Yeah. What do you mean mix?
Like
put both of them on?
No, like
actually mix them?
Ketchup, mustard, relish, mayo.
Mayo.
Mix it.
Yeah, isn't that like a Big Mac? Throw it on. But I mean, why mixing it is that next? Like that's more work to do that.
You know what?
Why not just put each like a little bit of, you know what I mean? Like just put them all on.
Yeah.
Then when you put it in your mouth, it mixes in your mouth.
You know Maddie's Patties? Have you ever had a burger?
I've heard of that, but I've never ate there. What is that?
It's Matty Matheson, famous chef. He's on.
Oh yeah, yes, of course.
So
Pop-ups. Yes, pop-ups.
That's his burger sauce.
Mix it all up.
Is ketchup, mustard,
not very
relish,
original, I must
mayo,
say.
Mix it together.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Move on with life.
I actually have had some of those. There was some pop-ups, but
the smash burgers.
The RSP, again, that's going to be the equal weighted. So
yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about that because of that Mag 7 and the outsized moves of some of those names, you may want to get into the RSP, which is the equal weighted. And I was thinking about investing in some of that into the new year.
When it comes to what we expect, I mean, we have a lot of individual themes we want to talk about when it comes to 2023. But when it comes to what to expect going into 2024, there's a lot of things to consider here, and I want to touch on this right out of the gate. Let me zoom in on this. Shout out to Forbes for this. This is the S&P's performance.
Oh yeah, all the
during election years, going all the way back to 1964. Mm-hmm. And if you'll notice, on the far right here, this is the calendar year annual return for the S&P 500. I just zoomed in here so we could see it a little bit clearer. But there's 1 and 2, all the way back to 1964 that are negative. Everything else is positive.
Remember we did the math. So we said if you go back to 1964, that's probably about 15 elections. We didn't look at it.
It was exactly. Yeah, it was exactly 15 elections.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, not too bad.
8% average during an election year. 8% average, which you highlighted was actually below what's normal. And that kind of goes back to what Michael Noss was touching on a couple weeks ago. He was mentioning that election years are typically very volatile, very kind of back and forth. There's a huge range potentially, but they do typically end positive.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that the market doesn't like one thing. And, well, it doesn't like a few things, but the main one is uncertainty. And when you're heading into an election year, of course, you're going to have that uncertainty. And there's some issues that differ on, you know, each side of the aisle. And sometimes that creates a little bit of that uncertainty. But with that statistic, the NASDAQ, or sorry, the S&P 500 averages 10.3% since its inception since 1957, I believe that was the inception, of the S&P 500. So the fact that we're heading into an election year and the average has been 8 and change percentage points, you're going to get about 200 bips off of that, off the average. I'm pretty fine with that. I noticed that bonds perform. I just did a little study on that, a little bit better during election years. Again, the uncertainty, people transferring into fixed income, which would make a little bit of sense. So if you are a little bit iffy on what to expect, maybe we go into some of these T-bills or something like that, maybe a 6-month, you know, figure it out. If the market goes crazy, then you can get out of it, put your money back to work. But I think that there's something there, but I don't know. Are we even talking, doesn't the election talk normally happen by now? Like, do we even know if Joe Biden is running?
I mean,
like, do they know this kind of stuff?
Political opinions aside, he was called out essentially on the first go around for running his campaign from his quote unquote basement. And everyone else was out there, you know, in front of cameras, talking to people. So whether or not that's going to be the case again remains to be seen. But
I think it's just uncertainty. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's been very, very quiet to this point.
Like, what if President Trump? I think the odds are close to 50-50 right now, whether it's going to be conservative or a Democrat holding post there. But you know, Donald Trump does have some pretty aggressive policies. We know that he's sometimes a friend of big oil and things like that. I could see energy making a move on some of that. And then we know, of course, with the healthcare space, we'll talk about that coming up as well. I think that could be a big mover there. But I'm not worried about anything. I think you just stay the course.
Yeah.
So I'm actually like 90% still invested in all equities. I don't know what your situation is, but I'm sitting in a little bit of cash, waiting for a little bit of pullback, and we will talk about that as well.
I would actually put my number even higher than that.
In
90,
all
95 plus.
Wow, okay. But I think that's right for us.
And I want to get into, you know, what we're going to do going into next year, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Watch right to the end.
And hit the like and subscribe. I'm tired of this. Let's go. Hit the subscribe.
As far as themes are concerned, let's talk a little bit about what to look for as far as themes are concerned. We touched on the AI side of things. It was all AI all the time for 2023. Do we see that continuing going into 2024? I mean, the answer is obviously yes, but to what extent? Is there a next level of AI? Is there a next opportunity of AI? And I'm specifically leaning towards, and I'll get, you know, obviously your opinion here in a sec, but I'm specifically leaning towards the hardware side of things. How is this technology going to end up, you know, involved in our daily lives a little bit more than it currently is?
Than it currently is? I mean, I feel like right now we're using it. Are we using it, the ChatGPT?
Yeah, and I was meaning more, you know, where are we going to see the next innovation?
Right.
It seems like there's every single company that's touching this right now is also working on a robot. So do you start to see those deployed into warehouses? Do you start to see robo this and robo that? You know,
I mean, why does Amazon have such a, like, why are they like a shipping company now? You know, logistics. You know, they've sort of mastered that from time. They can anticipate what people are going to order. They have so much data on the stuff that you order, Brendan, and they're going to start putting up ads showing you, hey, like when you log into your Prime app or whatever, or your Amazon app, it kind of tells you, hey, maybe you're interested in this. These are the Boxing Week or the Black Friday deals that maybe you're interested in. So I feel like pushing information to us is something. I feel like tailoring it, good word, tailoring it to us. I think that's something. And I don't want to spoil anything as well, but what about wearables? Like, I know that Apple's going to have this blood oxygen, but again, the more the sensors, the more information we get, like, you know, how's Sean's breathing, algorithm? How's Brendan doing today working? Like, we've talked about things like this. I just think the more data that's gathered, honestly, I'm not too worried about privacy or anything like that. I mean, I feel like anybody can go. I have probably right now about 20 or 30 fake Instagram accounts. I told the story today of how, yeah, it's fine. I told the story today how some of my friends are like leading them on and trying to get them talking fantasy football, talking all this kind of stuff, trying to confuse these guys. My brother-in-law actually has like a little strategy that he talks about with all these guys. He talks about golfing and things like that and has a lot of fun with them, eventually telling them to get out of there. But what about that?
Yeah.
Just, I think AI can help even make this world just even a little more safe. Like, it's almost the other way around. But how about like protecting us from these kind of instances happening a little bit more? Like, why can't Meta or why can't X figure out that these are fake accounts? So I just feel like making more efficient lives for us, including stuff like a ChatGPT. You even mentioned it. You want to talk about hardware. And I actually have this thing up right now. Right now, OpenAI is just so huge with the generative AI models, 39% right now of market share. There's so much more to come through here. How about AWS working on a large language model? Meta's not even on here. That's going to be part of the other. Google was 7% right now as well. There's so much happening in the background.
Yeah.
And then we have Elon Musk talking about Grok. Is it Grok? G-R-O-K?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be something else as well.
Yeah.
And then we have a whole bunch of scraping. We'll get to that again as well. Where's this information coming from? How legitimate is it? And I think that that's the key thing. Getting the best information into our hands. You know what I mean?
And faster and faster.
And filtered out.
Yeah.
Like you want to have the best information there as soon as possible. You mentioned about those Google AirPods.
Yes. You know, I tried that out.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, you tell the story.
No. So we were talking the last time, guys. Go back and watch the last episode. We were talking about the translation. I think it was the last one. Maybe it was two ago. Something like that. Watch all of them.
Yeah.
The AI built into the new Google AirPods, the headphones, will provide real-time translation.
Right.
If you're in another country, if you're talking to someone who doesn't speak the same language as you, and all you have to do, I tried it over the holidays, you just touch it so the assistant comes on.
Yep.
And you say, hey G, be my translator.
I see what you did there. You don't want to say, I'll say it, hey Google.
Yeah, be my translator. And then it says, sure, no problem.
That's so sick.
What would you like
to say?
Like, what would you like to say? And then you can have a conversation.
Isn't that insane? Isn't that great?
Yes. No, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Like, for some of us that maybe have relatives in other countries and maybe we don't speak that language,
exactly.
that opens that up.
Huge opportunity.
You know, the example that I wanted to give in that was, you were saying, like, as you're walking up into even a coffee shop or something like that.
Right.
You can just place the order.
Yes.
Like, it knows you're in a Starbucks. And it's just like, okay, what would you like to order?
Yeah.
And it even knows your last orders.
Yeah.
Like, when I was getting those dollar drink days over there during the summer, I'd go maybe once a week or something and get an iced coffee. Siri would literally be asking me, like, do you want to save this as an order? And then you can make it like every day. You just say, hey, blah, blah, blah. Put my order through on McDonald's, and then boom, your iced coffee is ready to rock and roll. That's the efficiency that we're talking about, Brendan, and it's gonna make our lives a heck of a lot better, as long as they don't charge us too much for it.
Is there...
Like, don't you feel
everybody's gonna be different here, but where is the line? What is the number where, the improvement in efficiency and the improvement in your quality of life becomes worth that price? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure they're going to spend some time trying to figure that out.
Have you ever thought about, like,
it's a good point,
what your bill was during cable? The eras of cable?
Literally never.
Right, and then now what it is, because I feel like by the time you're paying for Apple TV, Disney Plus, all the stuff, and now Netflix is like...
You're right.
$50 a month. That's
easy.
$25 a month.
Easy.
It adds it up. It adds it up. And the next thing you know, it's like, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
Amazon now, actually, they're going to go $2.99 a month.Id you know that?
For Prime.
For Prime, starting in February.
So even if you...
Even if you're a Prime member.
You still
This is upsetting my wife. She actually messaged me today. At Amazon, you don't upset my wife. You know how much business we do with Amazon? And I know you do as well. I came home yesterday. There was 2 packages there. I was like, well, I thought Christmas was over. I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, no, I just feel like $2.99 a month.
Yeah.
Again, it's a drop in the bucket.
It's a coffee.
But at the same time, you go times 12. You're at 40 a year, still doesn't sound very much. But at the end of the day, this nickel and diming is gonna add up. And I wonder if that again is like the wealth disparage. Like we're saying, we're laughing at that kind of a number. And $3 a month, most people hopefully, especially, you know, listening to, not just listening to this podcast, but.
Do they lose over this?
Amazon?
No chance.
No. Do you just,
no chance.
Subscribe from that?
No chance.
The only thing is, maybe, and I think Ramin was upset at this, maybe Fabian was, when I said Prime really wasn't that good as far as what was available as Prime Video on demand.
Right.
But I actually looked at, I think they're right. Actually, there is some good content there.
You know what they've done?
And so I got to shout out to them. The boys, there was that Reacher was filmed right by my house.
Locally, anyways, they started broadcasting live television. So you can get.
Oh, I saw Global.
You can get Global. You can get City TV. You can get City TV News. You can. So I don't even have CP24 like that type of cable anymore.
Then you don't have CP24.
Exactly. So I just watch it on Prime, on Amazon Prime.
Oh, they have CP24?
No, but they have the
similar news.
The City TV online streaming thing, whatever it is. It's the same stuff. Like they have reporters all over the city. It's this literally.
So I still have cable. Fabian's like mocking me here in the back. I still have cable.
Fabian's saying, what is cable?
What would be the one reason to have cable? For me, cord cutting. Give me those scissors. No, I think live sports.
Right.
Because I find like, and I'm not a degenerate gambler by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
One of my friends, actually, you know who it is, I'll tell you off air, messaged me and goes, oh, you know, can you believe that I just dropped $2,000 on the Raiders to beat the Chiefs? And they won, and then they got 5-1. He won 10 grand on that bet. Okay, honest,
I know who it is.
Honest to God, right? The guy may or may not have problems. Okay, but I said, oh wow, I lost $15 betting on the Kansas City Chiefs. I went the other way. So, but the idea of what I'm getting at here about all of this is, I feel like that's the disconnect right now, because if you're betting live sports, you know, you can bet on, like you could bet the next pitch is a ball or a strike or the next out. Streaming is delayed.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you are streaming, did I say steaming or streaming?
Streaming.
Streaming, okay, good. Is delayed a little bit. So I feel like for the degenerate gamblers, they might be the ones that might have cable still, because you can get the live sports. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, I like it for that reason.
And to that, you know, there's streaming options now, regardless of what you're a fan of.
Right.
You know, it's going to cost you $9.99 a month or $6.
Disney's like Hulu and Paramount.
But you can still watch it.
Peacock.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's so many options out there.
I grew up skiing. I raced for a long time. I
was skiing this past week, by the way.
The grass was green.
I know.
It was 10 degrees.
It was, I told them don't carry an ACL or something out there.
Anyways, the World Cup ski racing, they started streaming on YouTube. So you don't even need to pay for anything anymore.
Well, we're not lucky enough to have YouTube TV, but that's another hot thing over there in the United States.
Yeah.
We don't have it here.
We kind of got off track here, but I want to talk a little bit about, let's circle back to OpenAI specifically. We get news of this. Actually, I want to mention this real quick. So we were talking about Grok from Tesla. Obviously, the stock's not going to be affected by this, but we learned, I want to say it was fall, maybe September, October, that Tesla was going to build this dedicated facility in Austin to house their brain center for Grok. So Elon is all in on this AI technology.
Of course.
And then fast forward a few months, just a couple of weeks ago, we get version 2 of the robot. What's it called again?
Not Hercules. It's Transformers, isn't it?
Optimus. Thank you, Ramin. Optimus. How long is it before those two get connected?
Immediately.
It's a matter of time.
Literally immediately. I mean, I think you just got to, and that goes back to your hardware point about what's going on with AI.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, actually in Twitter, I don't know if you've opened up Twitter, there's a Grok tab.
Wow.
Look here.
I did not.
Here we go. Look at this, Grok right here. You just click on it, and here it goes. Now you have to upgrade to Premium Plus, which I think I'm paying, what are we paying, 10 bucks a month on this?
Speaking of nickel and diming, Elon.
But here it goes. But is he nickel and diming? How much is GPT? 29? Or, well, I mean, Bing has it, you can get it, but there's different versions.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem. And again, you are right, speaking of nickel and diming, but I don't know. I just think the more options you have, the better. Grok might work for you, chat might work for me. Something else might work for somebody else. I just, these large language models continue to be a success. I think the story is in that scraping. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, I wanted to get into that. I was actually going to grab the graphic for that.
Okay. So the thing is that there's fair use policy.
Right.
So I think that this is one of the things that I think could derail a little bit the development of some of these chatbots or some of these.
Well, let's tee this up a little bit because it's a lawsuit, right? Like,
yeah, it won't last.
There's a lawsuit that's been filed against OpenAI and ChatGPT specifically for copyright infringement. And I should have grabbed the graphic, and I had it at lunchtime, and I don't know where it is right now. But it was essentially someone was comparing a ChatGPT prompt about an article from the New York Times with the actual article from the New York Times.
I know, it was literally.
And I don't want to show this because it's the internet, it's Twitter or X. Who knows what people post, whether or not it's legitimate or not.
It is legitimate, though.
It seems like it, or sounds like it anyways, but there was literally 2 lines that were different. Everything else was word for word, you know, one and the same.
So? No, but I mean, the thing is, Brendan, honestly, like,
what is fair use?
Right.
That's the question.
That's the question.
Yeah. What is fair use?
I mean, Brendan, you and I could call up that exact same article. You know, my whole thing is that give credit. You know, like I feel like you could have scraped the internet and found that. Like, if you want to know what was the S&P up in 2023, you can ask that to ChatGPT, and it could almost give you an exact line that was written in Forbes or whatever. Right? Is that's public information.
Exactly.
Like, if the New York Times doesn't want people to access that stuff, then maybe don't make it so readily available for free on the internet. You know, and even if you have to pay a premium, they're going to just have to figure that out. But I honestly think, is this going to make a difference to the bottom lines of any of these companies? You know, Peloton had the same problem actually with music. They were all of a sudden blasting the songs that you were riding your bike to or whatever, and Warner Brothers and all these music companies had issues with that, rightfully so. But they got that all settled. You know, every time you stream a song, you got to pay X percentage or a cent per stream or whatever it is to the artist or to the record company. And I think we do the same thing here.
And that's what it'll come to. Yeah,
you know, like
it's going to have to.
You're you know, like you're a newspaper company turned into, and then they're online. But let's go. This is another revenue stream for them. Do they stop producing this information? No. Because that's what they do. Just get a deal done.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Microsoft, Brendan, they have a $13 billion investment in ChatGPT. I think they added like 700 billion or something in market cap. You know, like, let's just pay the people that are providing the information so that we can move on off of this.
And we heard from the likes of Apple, going back to last week, there was some rumors floating around that they had started working on whatever it is, their entry into this space already.
Probably rightfully so, right?
And then 2 days after that story came out, there was another rumor that was circulating around suggesting that they are approaching these new suppliers before they even get started
to make sure,
and negotiating these deals before they
due diligence, amazing.
So Apple taking the maybe smarter, safer, more productive.
I have a pretty, it's a hot take, but it's not really. It's just information.
Apple's going to be up 50% next year?
No. It's not about that.
Buy more.
Yeah, I mean, always buy more. No, the thing is that, how about this? How about this?
Shares, but
you know how many millions of tweets there are a day?
I have no idea.
500 at least, million tweets a day.
Yeah.
All right, Fabian, be quiet. He wants to know how many are people. I don't know. You tell me. I mean, isn't that why I'm paying $9.99 a month? We're trying to get rid of these bots. Valid point. Okay, but guess what? Guess what? How many YouTube? I don't know the number of this, so I shouldn't ask you the question. How many YouTube minutes are produced every single day? Well, guess what? News anchors, news people, news companies, everybody's producing YouTube videos. And guess what happens when you upload your content to YouTube? Bye-bye, no more rights for you for that content. What happens when you tweet something out? Same thing. So guess who's not going to have a problem? Grok. If Elon Musk is building Grok based on information taken from New York Times Twitter feed, okay? or Forbes' Twitter feed, or your Twitter feed that's only putting out facts, reputable feeds, then all of a sudden, all of this information that is in Grok, that is in Google, what's Google's called again?
Bard.
Bard? They have a new one, I think.
But it's built into Bard.
Okay.
It's just an extension of
Bard, right. Okay. I think it was like Hercules, or there was some
Gemini, I think it is?
Yeah, I think you're right about that one. Gemini, yeah. Anyways, those companies aren't going to have the same problem as potentially Microsoft and or OpenAI is going to have, because they did scrape that information. Now, I just wonder, when we open up the sort of the Iron Curtain there and we find out, where is Apple getting their information from? They're doing a deal, you mentioned. Well, Grok gets it from Twitter, and Bard should be able to get it from how many how many Google searches are there every single day, you know, with information provided from that. So I just feel like that's going to be a story for 2024. But as an investor, are you worried about that? Are you going to stop buying Microsoft shares?
No chance.
Are you going to stop buying? No. So for me, I think it's an interesting story, and it's interesting for podcasts, but I don't think it's a story.
It gets figured out.
Yeah, everything always does.
This is the database we were talking about. So this is the sources, essentially, that ChatGPT was built off of, or GPT-3. So this Google, or patents.google.com, is essentially a copy of the internet that they store in their servers. So anything available on that copy of what is searchable,
that was from OpenAI?
This is ChatGPT. They have access to. So if you go down to number 4 on this list,
what is it?
It's New York Times.
There you go.
So that's where the lawsuit comes from, suggesting that they're just taking everything word for word. And even if they are, as you said, where's that line? Where do they draw that line? And that's what needs to get figured out.
You know what? Whenever you're drawing lines like that and we get involved with legislation and laws, it always makes me think that if you're listening to this podcast and you potentially have not decided a career choice yet, I would think, and if you're young enough to do it, how about law? You know how long this is going to get tied up in any kind of a court system? And then when you get a favorable ruling in Nevada or in the state of California, that's just going to get appealed. You're going to get to the federal level. I just feel like we move forward and we forget about it, and these guys just figure it all out. I mean, it's an easy way to do it, man. When streaming came online with music, they had to figure that out, and they did, right? Artists were like, no one's going to our concerts, no one's buying labels, records anymore, and they figured it out.
YouTube was a disaster initially because of that.
And I think too, exactly, and I do think that if New York Times can get it figured out, look, all we're doing is talking about them more.
Yeah.
Right? So that's good.
It's exactly what they want.
It's exactly what they want, and now we're saying we're concerned about it because they are so reputable. It's a win for New York Times, no matter how you look at it, in my opinion.
We don't have anything in our rundown here as far as IPOs are concerned, but I feel like that might be a thing, or a little bit more of a thing going into next year as well.
You know of any big ones coming through?
I mean, Reddit has been the one that's kind of sitting there, kind of poking the bear and waiting for the right time to jump.
One other one, I have to jump. I can't remember what it was. Would you buy that though? I would. You would? Fabian likes it.
I don't know the traffic numbers for them, but
it's huge. Apparently, it's huge.
I wanted to mention this as well, because there's been rumblings about OpenAI, and this is the convoluted mess that is the structure, the corporate structure of OpenAI. So if they were to somehow clean this up and get it to a point where it could be a regular corporation that could be publicly traded, how does Microsoft fit into that?
Didn't they get a board seat or something? What does that say? Minority economic interest in OpenAI.
Whatever that means.
Not monthly interest. But I don't know. I don't really care about corporate structure. Do you?
Is there a way? Well, just if you specifically, like, if you're trying to value a company. I mean, the last reports were suggesting.
Trying to value OpenAI.
But that's the thing. They were trying to raise money, apparently, reportedly,
I see.
at 100 and something billion, or no, 100 and something. I don't want to get this wrong.
Probably billion is probably right.
Billion.
Yeah.
Might have been a billion.
Yeah. Sounds
with this structure. So if they were to somehow change this and streamline it to a point where people are a little more comfortable with it, do we see that make its way onto the public market, maybe even first next year?
I mean, Ms. Helen Toner here, the quote from this is, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal again, "Our goal in firing Sam was to strengthen OpenAI and make it more able to achieve its mission." And I guess we got to figure out what its mission is. And wasn't that just to make the world a better place?
It started off as a nonprofit.
Right.
And somehow, at some point, he apparently started going down the profit road because he saw all
because you have
all the
hundreds of
opportunity.
employees.
Exactly, and you got to pay the bills somehow. And the board was saying, "Hey, wait a minute, let's talk about this," and he apparently wasn't. So,
what about if Microsoft just said, "Scrap all this. Here's a check. You tell us what we need to write, and we'll just take this whole thing over."
I mean, you saw what happened when he walked out. He said everyone's going to come with us, and Microsoft would be standing there with open arms.
So maybe they can just get a deal done.
Yeah.
And what about if it was just shares?
I could also see that happen.
A little bit of cash, a little bit of shares in there. I feel like you've built up this platform as an engineer or something, and you're just sitting there, getting a salary or whatever you're getting. And I mean, there's no stock compensation. And I just wonder if people leave companies like that because maybe there is no stock to watch. And then if you're never going to IPO it, then what the heck?
Yeah. I mean, this is all speculation, so we'll see what happens next year.
This is a story for 2024, man.
People want ideas.
Hit the like and the subscribe, first of all.
Please, subscribe, guys. Leave a comment.
One of the things that I'm worried about, I actually think Tesla could be a really great idea in the new year.
Okay, we'll get to that. Let's focus on the AI side of things. Let's talk about chips. It was all about NVIDIA. AMD has had a crazy December. Comparatively speaking, when you look at the two charts, NVIDIA and AMD, this is the market cap for semiconductors, ranked biggest to smallest here. Where's the opportunity going to come here going into next year? Because there's a lot of interesting names on this graphic that I think could be a little underpriced at this point.
What was the story today with NVIDIA? Do you remember what it was? And we're filming this on Friday, and people will be listening to it on Monday.
Yeah, China.
Remember, it was on our China.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that list, you can see NVIDIA. I don't know if we could put it back up if you guys want to. But NVIDIA just outpacing everybody. What is that exact number? That's kind of what I wanted.
63?
Yeah, 63%. That's total shareholder return. Semiconductors, what is that? Ranked by annual total shareholder return. Okay. So I'm looking at that level, and forget about what we've returned to shareholders. What just the size of this market is getting bigger. And that news came today with China.
Yeah.
And if everyone's going to want the best of everything, you're going to want to have the most, the highest powered chips. And I feel like you're going to pay whatever it takes. We've already seen, I just talked about that extension in Microsoft's share price. We talked about Baidu today with Ernie. Every time we say that, I'm going to laugh every single time. So shout out to Sesame Street. I think you stay with, honestly, the picks and the shovels. And you mentioned that, the hardware.
Yeah.
I still feel like if you're going to produce something, you're going to go with AMD. You're probably going to go with NVIDIA.
Yeah.
And we talked about the forward PEs. NVIDIA's right now is 25, pretty aggressive, aggressively low. To be able to buy that number and watch it grow. Apple's PE is 30. I feel like there's more catalysts involved for NVIDIA right now. I like the space. I don't think it's overextended. It's bumping its head against $500. Here, maybe I'll just call up the chart because we can show it for those of you that are watching it on Spotify or YouTube.
It's interesting you mentioned that. For anyone who missed the story that happened on Friday, NVIDIA came out and said they were going to sell a slower, cheaper version of their main gaming chip to China to circumvent these US restrictions and get back in the Chinese market.
It's not just NVIDIA, there's a US AI export ban.
Yes, but NVIDIA was the one that came out and said, here's our latest offering that will get around that. The question becomes, how long is it going to be until the US responds again and says, oh, here's why you can't now sell that one as well to China. So, I mean,
they're just so smart, though, dude.
This back and forth is continuing, though.
Yeah, but they're just so smart. They're going to just figure it out. They'll circumvent, they'll go around it, and they'll, the big day, February 21st. We were all looking forward to NVIDIA's big release, and we were like, oh my God, we don't want to do anything until their earnings report. Well, right now, Feb 21, they're always late cycle. They're going to be coming out after everybody else, so we'll get a nice little look at some of the other names that are going to hit, and then we'll see what happens from there. AMD was $94 bottom, comes out with their report, boom, all the way to the moon, up where we're up at 150 right now. The key thing for me is uncertainty right now. Look at the NVIDIA chart. So we have it up right now. We're at the same spot that we were in August, Brendan. We're at $500. So you're telling me that we just went almost half of a year when all we were talking about was chips, we had NVIDIA go from $500 in August all the way back down to 400. What's changed? Then all the way back up to 500 again, then bouncing off the 50-period moving average at 450 and now right back to 500. You don't keep touching the stove here without getting burnt. And I feel like you're going to go to the upside right now. Everybody that's been shorting this, if they didn't cover, they're going to have to cover when you break through 504.
Yeah.
So I really think that 52-week and all-time high of 504, 506 gets taken out, and then we see what happens February 21st. So for me to answer your question, what's next for all of these names and what to buy, I like the Intel story. I like them going into Israel there. And what was the story that they got?
$3.2 billion? From the
yeah, it wasn't. No, I think it was more than that, wasn't it? Yeah, $3.2 billion grant. That's what it was. But to build a $25 billion chip plant.
Yeah.
So they're putting, and we talked about that. I think it was our last podcast. The investment that Intel puts into their foundries and into development, everything like that. I think Intel could be another name that goes upside. We just had a huge move in Intel as well.
Yeah.
But if you pull charts out, this is what we're going to talk about moving forward. What's going to change? I think the world's going to get smarter, it's going to get faster, and we're going to get hungrier for speed and for accuracy. So I think you still buy all of these names and you just close your eyes, which is why I like the SMH.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Buy an ETF, get them all, and let's walk away.
Yeah, let's talk about those coming up here. But the overall excitement that we saw in 2023. So we have to, at the end of the day, consider all of this, all of what you were just saying, all of the AI angle in an election year, coming off of a 54% return from the NASDAQ. So considering all of that, standing here today, going into January 2nd will be the first trade day of 2024. Do you buy that 500 break on NVIDIA?
Yes.
Or do you lean on a XLK, as you said, or a Q, or something on the tech side of things?
I mean, I feel like when we're talking about like building positions is one thing, and it's another thing to try to talk about like, where am I going? Like, is this the all-in moment? Like, if you're not in NVIDIA, do you put all of your money in on a $500 break? No, I don't think so.
No.
I mean, we've seen it now 3 times. It's hitting it now every day, pretty much. It's hitting these levels, Brendan, and not breaking. So I feel like a break, you will get that bump up. Could we see 10% up to 550? Yeah. We could see that in a day. What about if they release another chip that's even better and faster?
And that's the next thing. And we've talked about this.
What if they get into cars?
But there's going to be the next version. Right. It's just a matter of when.
Right.
It'll be like the cell phone market.
Right. I was going to say, it's like when iPhone releases their iPhone 15. Guess what? They already have iPhone 17. They're just waiting.
Exactly.
They change the design up, but they know what they're doing. Yeah.
And what does that cycle look like at the end of the day?
Yeah. So that's the thing. NVIDIA had a lot of benefit over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years because everyone was buying the chips because of Bitcoin mining, right? And how exciting was that? You couldn't even keep some of these GeForce graphics cards in stock. I remember when I was building my mining rig, I was like looking it up and was like, oh my God, I gotta go like right now. Like I couldn't wait for the show to end because I had to run out to like CompuCenter because they had like a 3080 in stock or something like that, right? And you waited to get that. And then we had, even before that, oh my God, look at all these wicked video games and look at the graphics. Well, I gotta get a good graphics card. Like when I have my 7-year-old asking me for a better graphics card because they want to play whatever the game they're looking at, like that's another windfall for them. So again, we go from gaming to Bitcoin mining. Now we're into AI. What is next for this? It's probably something we can't even think about. A year ago today, we were just learning about OpenAI.
Exactly. Almost to the day.
So what's the next thing to come through? Like I was just joking about the Apple car and stuff like that. But if Apple's going to put work into this, there's Apple Maps. Yeah. Are they going to test the artificial intelligence that are in these Tesla cars coming through with full self-driving and things like that?
Is the headset?
Can that be tested? The Vision Pro is going to be coming out as well. And that's going to have a chip inside of that thing as well, you know? So there's going to be certain things that you're going to have to keep on buying. At some point, NVIDIA is going to be considered, I think, maybe not this year or next year, but it's going to be put into like value portfolios as well. Because it's something that you're not going to be able to get away from.
It's an interesting thought, and that's right around the corner. February is, let's be honest, right around the corner where we'll see that Vision Pro. And if the groundwork is being made or done,
less than 40 trading days.
Exactly. If the groundwork is being done now for Apple's whatever AI, large language model, how long is it before you get your Vision Pro with AI built in?
Yep.
It's not going to take them long. But anyways, I wanted to show this chart as well, because if you zoom out on Apple, you were talking about NVIDIA being right at 500. You zoom out on Apple, as you well know, here's 200 staring us in the face once again on Apple. So it's one of those things where you're looking for opportunities going into a brand new year. The market is so extended. We've been saying this, I feel like, for months already. Are we buying breaks of all-time highs in some cases going into a brand new year? That's an election year. That's coming off of a 54% return for the NASDAQ. It seems crazy, but
is it right? I mean,
if we rewind the clock back to this time last year, we were sitting here. I mean, we weren't doing the podcast yet, but we were sitting here talking about how terrible of a year 2022 was, and everyone, let's be honest, was expecting that to continue into 2023, and it was not the case.
But is that why 2023 was maybe really good? Is that there were so many people that you were either trying to average down into a position that was maybe horrendous, and there was some smart money that maybe got out potentially earlier, and they put their money into cash. And then when they saw sort of the market kind of try to bottom out there, they put the money back to work, and they put them in names that were cash mavens. And I mean, the names that continue to work are the names that have the largest cash positions. Like, Apple has lots of cash. Google, tons of cash. It's stocks that have a lot of upside are the ones that can either have the ability to go out and buy companies to improve sort of their balance sheet and get that technology in-house like that. Also, cash does help you earn money in the bank. When you're putting money into your bank account at 4 or 5%, and these companies are doing that, that's something that's going to hit their balance sheets and just make them look so much more attractive. But look at this. If you look at the Apple weekly chart, you talked about buying highs and being wrong or not. So here's the high here, 2021, basically December of 2021, Apple hit this high of 181. I feel like that was either a 2 trillion mark or something like that. And then a nice move down. So they hit the high, then retraced beautifully back down, and we all know what happened in 2020. We had COVID come through, back down to 132. So you took a haircut there of about 35% on Apple, but then look, so that was the high. So when you go fast forward here, if you take that high break that happened now in June of 2023 right now, it broke out from 182 and then continued to go all the way up into $200 where we stopped, and then made that move back down again. So you're asking about taking out all-time highs. Well, you took out an all-time high here, and you started to go back up. You really never, sure, you looked back. We had some disastrous things happen. But taking out all-time highs in good companies, you may never get that price again.
Yeah.
So I feel like averaging in, not putting all your money to work, because Brendan, we're going to talk about this, but I think the Fed might have some surprises in store for us in 2024. We may not get that extended move. You and I went over the Fed rate tool, expecting about a 150 basis point move. That might be over aggressive. And I wonder if we're pulling forward some of those rate cut expectations into today's market. So I'm a little bit nervous about Apple. I know you're talking about Apple specifically and some of these names hitting all-time highs. The trade for Apple and NVIDIA is quite simple. If you do not believe that these names are going higher, just get out of them.
Yeah.
Like, where have you bought these stocks that you're holding on to losers right now?
Yeah.
They're both near and at all-time highs. Yeah. Trim some out, like we've talked about. You and I are still in a lot of equity and not as much cash, so I'm not sure if we're doing exactly what we're saying. But if you're nervous about these positions, get out and reevaluate your damn positions when time is right.
All right, real quick, I want to get to that Fed stuff, but here's just a visual representation of what we've been talking about here. These are market caps for all of these. Apple at the top there, $3 trillion. Surpassed that and is holding nicely above that. Microsoft below that, 2.7 trillion. And then what is that? I guess Google next, 1.6 trillion. Tesla in there, Amazon in there, NVIDIA in there, obviously, Alphabet, but the list goes on and on. So it's been about these in 2023. It continues to be about these going into 2024. Do we see a $4 trillion Apple this year.
What was it at? So it has to go up 25%?
3.07 right now. Oh,
no. 33% for Apple this year?
That's a huge move, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think Apple goes to 260. But again, what you're to me, there's only a couple things that move the markets, right? It's going to be a catalyst, and what is that going to be? I actually think of the other way for some of Apple. I mean, I like that Apple is going into India. We've talked about that. I feel like that takes them away a little bit from China. I like that move. I like the cheaper iPhone move to open it up to more people. I think that's good. The wearable thing will get sorted out, and then the Vision Pro. But to see Apple up to 260, I just think it's too heavily owned and too heavily traded. I just don't see that. That means the S&P probably has to be up 20% or so this year. I don't see that happening, but been wrong before, and we'll be wrong again. I still stay long Apple, but I'm a little bit worried about that position.
All right, let's talk about this inflation stuff and what is to come, because I think it's important going into a brand new trading year to understand not only what has happened from the Fed, but what potentially could happen going into next year. We're all the way back to, as we said to start this off, a 3 handle on their preferred measurement of inflation. For PCE, I think it was 3.4, 3.8% or something like that on the last one. So this is, you mentioned the Fed funds tool, here it is, 83.5%. So nothing's going to happen at the January meeting. Last week of the month, for anyone wondering. We get CPI week 2.
Of January.
Of January, I think it's the 12th or something like that.
So you know what you just said there, nothing's going to happen? I think something's going to happen.
You think there's going to be a cut in January?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance for a cut in January.
It's 16.5% right now.
Exactly. That's the something.
That's very low.
Yeah. Okay.
That's very low.
That's what it is right now. Brendan, we just had this discussion, my guy. Yeah. You said to me, so much can change. Really
and quickly. It does, and that's a point, right?
So what about if that CPI comes way lower?
Right.
And then all of a sudden inflation, disinflation. You heard of that before? That could come through.
Yeah.
You know, that the Fed start to worry about it. You know, maybe we need to cut a little faster to adjust for this. You know, maybe unemployment number comes in a little hotter than expected.
My point on this is simply just going back to, all we can do is look back.
Right.
And going back to the last Fed announcement and the comments from Fed Chair Powell. And let's be honest, the rest of the Fed representatives that we heard from after that, the majority of which were all still saying, we haven't done enough, we haven't done enough, we will raise again if needed, we will raise again if needed. It's one CPI reading. We'll get the jobs report as well, coming up in January for December. Depending on those two, is that enough to tip the scales one way or another for January? I'm going to say no for now.
I mean, it's probably the answer is no.
The safe answer is, and if you come to this, once again, you got to go all the way out to March to get a 73.5% reading for me.
Got to go to the screen. Yeah, she's discussing Fed rate cuts over there.
Yeah, exactly. 73.5% in favor of a quarter point in March. But then to your point, if you go all the way out to this time next year.
There we go.
You know, this is where you start to see the bell curve, I guess it's called. 3.5.
Yeah, like look at that.
To 4.25, again? Let's call it.
Great.
3.5 to 4.25. That's more than 100 basis points that need to come off between now and then, according to them.
They raised 500 basis points last year, right? Four raises. I don't know. We go straight up. Let's see if we can go straight down. Look, if that happens, great. I think the market can continue, and I think we can get that 10+%, that average sort of S&P return. We do have the election cycle coming through. Yeah. Does Jerome Powell care about elections? No. Should he? No. Do they? I don't know. We'll see if that does come in. We do know that when Trump gets into power, things sometimes tend to change a little bit. And I just wonder if this is a year where the Fed kind of just says, we're just staying the course. We're just going to watch these economic numbers, see if everything still stays pat. If they do, great. Could possibly bump a little bit higher. I just worry about what I said, Brandon. It was kind of a rhetorical question to you.
Yeah.
What if something goes awry?
Yeah.
That's where there's a problem, right? We couldn't have foreseen COVID. We couldn't have, but that happened.
Yeah.
And the Fed had to pivot. on what they were doing, right? Ideally, the Fed looks at the numbers, they keep the money supply going, and I just feel that with what the stock market's been doing, you stay the course, we react to it here as traders, and that's about the best you can do. So for me, I'm not convinced one way or the other that we're gonna get that 100 basis point move. Let's see what happens. I still feel like this data points are gonna come in a little bit different than expected, and we'll see where we go from there. I just say you buy the best companies, and you don't really worry too much about it on an economic level. But again, what if there is more import bans from China? How does that affect gross domestic product, things like that? Yeah, so I'm a little bit nervous about some of that, but I'm not overly concerned. I'm not a big guy for, you know, interest rates and doing that. I just wait every single day. We wait for that 2 p.m. number when it comes out, and I just hope and pray that it's different than as expected. The last 4 or 5 interest rate decisions have been like 100% on the CME Fed. Like we knew what they were gonna do, and they did it exactly the same thing. So if that's what's gonna happen continuously and we can just trust what the Fed's gonna say, then yeah, stay the course and the market will be fine.
They have to, and I've mentioned this in the past, they have to, and he's even said this, Powell, maintain the level of restrictiveness they're at now to keep a cap on where inflation is now. So they're at 5.25, 5.5. If inflation is 3%, that's a huge margin that they have to manage, and at some point will need to
they will
be adjusted accordingly. We're getting on here a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about what is to come next year. I have a couple of ideas. I want to hear yours.
All right. I mean, it's not going to be anything that's crazy here right now. I gotta go get my hat. I actually think Palantir can go. I know, you know what we saw this year, Brendan? We saw a little small rideshare company called Uber, that's not so small anymore, hit their 5th quarter in a row of EBITDA profitability. Putting on the Palantir hat right now. You know, I feel like I just got drafted. You know, like when you get drafted in like the NHL, this is not gonna go good because I can see already that it's not good with these lights. But I'm putting on the Palantir hat because Uber got accepted into the S&P 500. What's the word I'm looking for? Included? No, accepted.
Added.
Promoted?
Yeah.
Added. Added.
Yeah.
Good word.
Yeah.
You know how many quarters Palantir has been EBITDA profitable now? After November?
Probably far more.
It's 4.
In a row.
Yeah. So now their 5th one allows them to be added to the...
What's the market cap though?
S&P 500, baby. So we're getting ready to go. What, does the market cap even matter? The market cap right now...
Well, they got to take something out, right? So if they removed something
I don't know, what is their market
bigger?
cap?
I don't know how that works.
The market cap is 36 billion. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
So the idea is, I think that is a great headwind. I mean, if you come over here and you see this Uber chart, I actually have a weekly chart. I'm going to switch this over to a daily chart. Look at this. So again, huge move up, right? Their last quarter back in October, profitable. Hey, you're being added to the S&P 500. Okay, that's a nice story, right? Straight up to the upside. That actionable event happened. I believe it was right here. We had a top move of $63, then a pull back down into 61. Nice move back to the top again. I think Uber falls off this because you get that buy the news, sell the event type of, or buy the rumor, sell the event. But anyway, this is not going to be a rumor. This is what's probably going to happen. Well, I guess it's a rumor if I'm saying probably. This is what should happen to Palantir.
Did we just start a rumor?
I don't know. It's yeah. But now people can be like, oh, okay, Palantir's going for their 5th quarter. And Alex Karp has given us no reason why that's not going to happen. We got that Army contract extended. Yep. They're adding more and more contracts in a world where immigration is a problem for many countries. You just mentioned this to me today. I didn't know that. What was it? The U.S. has let in more this last month than they did any other month?
Yeah, more illegal immigrants on the south border. Again, not to get political, but more illegal immigrants on the south border than any other month ever in December.
Palantir gets nearly 60% of its revenues from government contracts. All right?
Do they have an AI that can count?
Yes. Yes, they do.
1 head, 2 head, 3 head?
No, I don't know if they have that. But their foundry is huge. And it's big in governments. It's going to be a lot bigger. And as this world continues to change, we're talking about trade wars. We're talking about, we just said that, immigration. Unfortunately, some of the unsettling wars that have popped up. I think Palantir can continue to work. And for me, I like it. New partnerships. They just recently got a new one with Japan as well. You want to talk about stable economies. You know, when your business is with the United States, Japan, Germany, right? Big industrial nations out there. And that's what you're working on. I like them, but if you're going to come over to a chart, look how good this level of $15 looks. I'm not, you know, you could buy it here at 17. Falling back into 15, I like that. It's also right into here, 200 period moving average. We've bought some dips on that before, and it's been holding down here, $13, $14, $15. Unless something dramatically changes with what's happening here, I really like it. They've also recently expanded its cloud computing partnerships with MSFT.
There you go.
You know what happens when people get involved with Microsoft and Amazon?
Rarely bad things.
Rarely bad things. I like Palantir from a stock side of things. I think it could be bought at these levels.
Really quickly,
that's kind of chalk, I feel like.
I have 2 plans for this year. One is, I mentioned last week when we were talking about what to look at even going into.
IBM is another company for Palantir.
So what you're saying is you really like Palantir?
I'm a shareholder.
That's the message, okay. I mentioned last week, speaking of, Cathie Wood and ARK, I think, is a great idea going into the new year.
Wow.
My plan in general is to get rid of all the crap that has been, let's be honest, bag holding for years and years and years.
Let's get out of HUD 8.
Same. And put it into
ARK?
ETFs.
Dun, 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 dun.
Specifically ETFs.
And
yes,
I
think at some point ARK is
Which
something
one?
that you have to, the main fund. I'm not going to get crazy.
I bought ARK KQ last year.
But not only that, I'm also going to look at a lot more tech, so XLK. The Vanguard ETFs have been fantastic over the past couple of years. VOO is the S&P 500 one.
Why do we never talk about VOO?
It doesn't do a lot of volume.
Okay.
It's not really a day trading, but very well run, very well known.
Charles Schwab one, SCHD, for those of you as well.
So anyone who is, and we'll get into this going, the weeks ahead.
Yes, we're running out of time.
When, where, how, why, but that is my plan going into 2024.
Palantir is based in Denver. I just found out that. That's nice to know.
Have you ever been?
No.
I love Denver.
What? You've been where? Colorado?
Yeah,
or?
I love Colorado. It's beautiful.
Why?
It's beautiful. It's the mountains. It's
oh, you're
clean.
a skier. You've already said that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love.
But why? But
Colorado.
The ARK. So the reason why I bought ARK KQ, and I like it. Here's the chart right here. We're actually bumping up to highs right now. Autonomous technology. Look at that one. So if you think that there's, again, it's going to be Tesla. There's going to be some big names in there. But again, going back to the technology.
I don't think right now. It's done a lot already in the past month and a half, but at some point, and again, we'll get into this, so come back in the weeks ahead. But let's wrap things up because we're getting a little bit long here.
But I have one more. XLV. We didn't talk about this enough. Healthcare. Look at this chart. Look at this chart. Are we not just going to, this is a daily chart. Are we just not going to break this 136?
At some point.
I mean, I think this is great. Great move to the upside. XLV.
I showed you that chart today of Eli Lilly specifically compared to XLV. And I mean, everyone knows what Eli Lilly's done, but no, it's a great look.
And I talked about this last podcast as well. I like that. And then shout out to RaderTrader, man. My guy over there made his appearance back. Look at this, man. LIT, this global lithium and battery ETF. This is another one that's really gotten hit. And if we're talking about lithium and PCs and cell phones, I know Ramin wants to go. We got to wrap this up.
That one's lit.
This one is lit. Like if you're going to the club and you're about to get lit, you might as well buy some lit right now battery tech ETF. That one could break. It's also above its 50-period moving average. I think lithium down here is a good one. We had uranium was a great call by Michael Noss as well.
There's so much to consider going into a brand new year. There's so much to consider to wrap up a year. I hope everyone's was absolutely fantastic. I hope you survived a...
Your one good thing better not be the same as mine, I swear to God.
I hope everyone survived a steady march higher all year long for tech, because it wasn't, like we said, it was not easy. It was a challenging year, depending on how you were looking at things and how you were playing things. So much more to come as far as ideas are concerned, so much more to come. We'll get into more specific trading thoughts, but yes, go for it. Give me your one good thing.
All right, well, because this is New Year's, I feel like give me yours first. How about that?
I always go last.
I might have to change mine. You want to go last? You want me to go? I'll go.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
All right. My one good thing right now is, and Sharif mentioned this a little bit on the podcast today, New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
Is it similar to what yours is?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
You're mentioning that you're going to try to go a little bit harder at the gym.
Yeah.
So I thought that maybe that was what yours was going to be.
That's not a resolution. No.
That would be a New Year's resolution. Well, you're already doing it, but harder.
Harder, yes.
Would be it.
I guess, sure, I'll go with that.
No, the reason why I'm saying this, it doesn't have to be gym related or anything like that. I feel like it's one good thing because whenever you're making a resolution, it's like you're naturally, it's in the word, you're trying to solve something.
Right.
And I just think that it's so important that no matter where you are right now, whether or not your New Year's resolution is to spend more time with your kids or play more video games, or I don't really care what it is. But I think that one good thing is to respect and honor your New Year's. What the hell are you showing? What is it? Yours? How come yours always has to do with food? But anyways, I just feel like the New Year's resolution would be to respect and honor. One good thing would be to respect and honor whatever your New Year's resolution
longer than the end of January.
Yeah, because generally speaking, people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this until I'm going to do this all year, and then March rolls around and you're like, what was my New Year's resolution again, or something like that.
Yeah.
So make it a part of your life, and whatever it is, just live up to your own resolution. That's my one good thing.
And that is kind of why I leaned away from that, because I'm totally in that camp. Anytime I have ever tried, I haven't made it to the end of January. So I don't even bother at this point.
Got it.
I'll make one right now, because with Christmas comes turkey. With
canned cranberry. Oh yeah, how did that go for you, Brendan?
We should have the results of that. Somebody put that on Twitter, I think.
I didn't even see the results.
There was a poll,
all I saw in the comments was canned. There
was a few that were fresh.
Yeah, I told you it'd be 70-30. 70-30 it was going to be.
Next week we'll solve it. Here's my resolution. Because we had turkey and we had way too much and a ton of leftovers, I made a killer turkey soup.
Yes, sir.
After. So shout out to, it gets really blurry if I zoom in more, but shout out to turkey soup, and my New Year's resolution to you,
That
Sean,
was not your turkey soup.
What? No, that's not mine.
I can see you Googling turkey soup.
No, I did. But my New Year's resolution will be to make turkey soup more than once next year.
What was so good about it?
It was oh my God, it was so good. So we, after dinner on Christmas, I took the carcass of the turkey, put it in the slow cooker, covered in water, made broth for the next 2 days.
Yes, sir.
48-hour broth, then took that broth with the leftovers, made soup. It was killer.
Wow.
Killer, so good.
Man, my wife is right here listening to all of this. Like, you're cooking up a storm over there. Like, now she's gonna be like, Sean, man, you gotta start cooking a little more. Now, my wife makes amazing soup, and a shout out to my my mother-in-law, because she's something similar. She has like a turkey. It's turkey, right? And tortellini, is that what it is? Yeah, so she puts, that's why I asked you what was in it.
The nod.
She puts the little tortellini
in
the turkey soup as well. So that just gives you that little extra layer of something.
I'm getting hungry.
Good.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Ramin found it. Fresh.
Stop, shut up. 26 votes. Brendan, how many family members do you have? All 26 of them voted?
3.
No, that is... Okay, Ramin was. He said, Ramin goes, wait, pause. So we both pause, and then she's like, no, continue talking.
Okay, never mind.
That is not a legitimate...
How is it not? It looks
legit.
Legitimate to me.
It does look legitimate to me as well, but
unless it was significantly dated, whatever. Anyways.
Okay, so what I want everyone to do is put in the chat right now. Have you tried turkey soup?
Yes.
I want to see that. I want to see if people.
Have you made turkey soup? Have you made turkey whatever?
Right, and then what are everyone else's potentially New Year's resolutions?
Do it right now. Go.
Why did Ramin say pause for? Oh, she's trying to find something.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too. I am right now, I am really like distraught about that study.
Rattled.
I'm rattled. I am rattled. I want to, thing is, I want to read the description in that thing there. I want to read everything. I got to make sure that it's legit, but congratulations on winning that.
That was fun.
I thought it'd be the completely other way around. Yes, make sure you hit the
do that. Leave a comment, hit that like, subscribe, join us back next week. It's episode 7.
I feel like we are like just at the beginning of something really huge.
We are.
So you know, like how people say like, oh, I was watching Trader TV Live when we only had like 5,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
You know, so now's your chance to say that about the podcast, because right now I think we're number like 5,000 or something at the bottom there, maybe even lower than that. I think we get into the top.
I'll take 500, top 500.
You'll take that?
To start.
Okay, to start. Yeah.
That's a good goal.
End of year goal.
That's a good goal.
Let's go top hundy. Let's go top hundy.
Episode 7 in the books.
Not bad.
See you Monday.
Have a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Oh my God, Happy New Year. Ciao, everybody. We'll see you Monday or Tuesday.